guys, yup, this is Blessa and welcome back to another vlog. And for today's episode of DTS or the Deep Talk series, we're gonna be discussing and talking about cultural relativism. But before we dig into that, let's talk about first the Ethnocentrism and Ethnocentrism. So basically, we live in a place where napakadami nating culture na ino-observe, na napakarami natin sa isang society na we observe a lot of cultures and different to each other, and it's actually normal. It's actually okay kasi it's really talaga may differences tayo bawat culture and bawat variety dito sa isang society. What matters the most is how we are going to embrace that culture, kung paano natin sila tatanggapin at kung paano natin ipapahayag sa isa't isa na we do understand and we totally respect their culture despite na iba man sa atin. But meron nga tayong tinatawag na ethnocentrism and xenocentrism. So I'm gonna be discussing this too before we go proceed in cultural relativism, because these three are somehow connected to each other. So let's begin with ethnocentrism. So based on the definition of the Google, ethnocentrism, it pertains to the belief that one's culture is superior to or the most natural among other cultures. Ito yung may kultura kang ino-observe sa isang society o yung mismong kultura mo na you don't accept other cultures other than your culture. Kumbaga, kapag kahit anong ihain sa yung kultura, you refuse to accept them. You only believe and you only embrace one culture, kundi yung culture lang na meron ka. Ethnocentrism, or it came from the two words ethno, meaning ethnicity, and centric, center of all cultures. Ibig sabihin nun, nakasentro lang yung paniniwala mo doon sa kulturang pinaniniwalaan mo. Kumbaga, isang kultura lang yung sinesenter mo. So, example nito ay nitong sa mga Pilipino. So, yung pagtawag natin ng nanay, tatay, mama and papa to parents or elderly. So, sa ibang cultures, like for example, sa Western countries, they actually don't call their parents as mama, tatay, nanay. Instead, they are used to call their elderly as with their first name. So, pansin nyo, hey Joe, mga ganun lang, but not actually nanay, tatay, unlike dito sa Pilipinas. So, sometimes, nadadala natin yung kulturang yon to that specific culture. Kaya, minsan, hindi nagkakaunawaan kasi iba yung kulturang meron sila sa kultura na kasanayan mo. Also, yung isa pang example is the pagmamano. Alam naman natin na nagsimula yan dito sa Pilipinas. But sometimes, kapag may nadating taga ibang bansa sa atin, like relatives natin, tapos sa iba siya lumaki, like for example, Western culture, pinamamano siya na matatanda. That's why, papasok doon yung culture shock kasi hindi naman yung ginagawa or hindi naman nakasanayan nung tao yung pagmamano sa ibang bansa. Tapos, we're trying to do, parang pinagagawa natin sa kanya or pinamamano natin yung specific person na galing ibang bansa dito sa Pilipinas. Kaya nagkakaroon ng culture shock kasi we are trying to showcase or we're trying to observe yung culture natin sa kanila. Kasi nga, we are very center of our culture. So, yun ang isang example ng ethnocentrism. And then, the other one, or the second one, is xenocentrism. Ito yung kabaligtaran naman ng ethnocentrism. Kung ang ethnocentrism ay parang in-embrace na yung kultura ng sarili mong kultura, at yun ang pinaniniwalaan mo superior to any other cultures. Sa xenocentrism naman, you think and you believe that that belief at that one culture is inferior to one another. Kumbaga, parang mas nakikita mo as superior yung ibang kultura kaysa sa iyo. Like for example, there actually nothing wrong about learning chopsticks, to eat with chopsticks, but some people use this na parang yun ang kultura nila. They are not observing using of spoon and fork. They are trying to adopt this culture, itong chopsticks. Kumbaga, ito na yung kinasasanayan nila because they love Korean people. Disclaimer, there actually nothing wrong about that. Not unless na dumarating sa point na napapalitan na yung kultura natin dahil lang dun sa gusto natin. So, yun ang isang example ng xenocentrism. So, mas naniniwala ka or mas minamahal mo or mas tinatanggap mo yung ibang kultura ng ibang tradition or na ibang lugar kaysa sa kulturang meron ka. So, since I discussed already the two ethnocentrism and xenocentrism, let's go to cultural relativism. Kung yung dalawa ay parang tinitingnan na superior yung isang culture at inferior yung isa pang culture, sa cultural relativism, dito mo may apply kung paano mo gagawin o paano mo i-embrace yung differences ng mga kultura. According to Google, the cultural relativism is an ability to understand a culture on its own terms and not to make judgments using the standards of one's own culture. Like for example, sa ibang culture or sa ibang place, ginagawang food yung mga palaka or mga crickets, ganyan. But dito sa kultura natin ay hindi tayo sanay na gawing pagkain yon. If someone will offer you that as a food, syempre you will find it very disgusting since hindi nga natin siya ino-observe. Syempre, if you will show yung disgust mo sa face mo to that particular person, medyo ma-offend yun kasi it's actually part of their culture and you will find it disgusting. But instead of showing them how disgust are you, instead, ask them or tell them na, I'm sorry, I don't eat frogs, but can you please tell me why do you like them? It's actually you're trying to understand their culture instead of judging them on your own. Why not to ask them bakit nyo kinakain or what makes that interesting? Kumbaga, you are trying to learn or you're trying to discover kung ano ba yung interesting do sa particular culture. It's actually trying to understand. Sabi dun sa cultural relativism, it's actually understanding that culture based on their standards, not your standard. Kumbaga, you are trying to accept things base sa kanilang kultura at hindi base sa kung paano mo siya tatanggapin. It's actually very, very beneficial since it's trying us to understand each other, to embrace each other, and also let's know that no culture is superior than others or no other culture is inferior than others. We are actually equal when it comes to morality, law, politics, etc. There are no cultures na mas mataas or mas mababa. It's actually, given na yung fact na we are very different with each other, we do have a lot of differences, especially when it comes to culture. Napakadami nating kultura ino-observe. But most importantly is that we have to respect each other, we have to understand each other. Like for example, yung sa mga ibang kultura, 'di ba? Na parang sanay sila na maraming asawa, more than one. Sa atin, pag dalawa, parang masama na 'yon. Pero sa iba, minsan 5 pa nga. May mga kulturang ganun na marami nagiging asawa. That means, minsan dinajudge natin na, bakit ganito? They do have a lot of partners. Kasalanan 'yon. Sa atin, it can be sin, but to their culture, it is not. That's why, instead of judging them based on our culture, try to understand their culture too, so that it would be fair and we would be able to understand bakit ganon, why such things happen. So ganon. In cultural relativism, it's able to understand their culture based on their culture, based on their understanding, and we will not rely on our judgments. Kasi 'di ba, limitado lang din yung mga alam natin. That's why it is important to learn and to adapt new things. So let's just admit na we tend to judge easily. We used to give conclusions immediately na without knowing the whole story or without knowing the culture na meron na isang tao. So just to add, babasahin ko sa inyo ito yung napakagandang quote. Practicing cultural relativism requires an open mind and a willingness to consider and even adapt to new values and norms. It is very important that we are willing to learn things. We are very open to different cultures para mas maintindihan natin at maiwasan natin yung panghusga ng iba't ibang kultura. Because given na yung fact na we are very different with each other, given na hindi na natin mababago, what can we change is how we think and how we accept things and how we respond to things. Yun na lang yung mababago natin. And aside from that, yun na lang. Yung kultura kasi nandiyan na yan. In order for us to have a better world that understands each other, that's a very first step. That's willingness to consider things, open mind, and ability to adapt things. So I guess this is how I will end it. So dapat hindi lang iikot yung sarili natin sa isang kultura. Dapat alam din natin kung paano natin i-embrace yung iba't ibang kultura. So we will be discussing the advantages and disadvantages of cultural relativism in the next video. So you should guys watch that. So you would be able to, widen your knowledge about cultural relativism. At hindi porket iba yung kultura ng iba sa atin ay mali na. Yung yung pagkakaiba-iba kasi ng ating kultura, doon ako naniniwala na yun ay isa sa ikinagaganda ng ating bansa. So, yun lang. Kailangan lang natin ng isang pangmalawakang pangunawa, and we shouldn't make judgment easily, and we should stop making conclusions based on what we see, but instead we should learn first, and we should able to discover things first before we give conclusions. And let's just, try to understand more deeply or deeper. Dapat mas maunawaan natin yung isa't isa dahil tayo ay magkakaiba. So, yun lang. Thank you so much for watching. I hope may natutunan kayo with this video. And if you guys did, please don't forget to subscribe, tap the notification bell so you'll be notified on my next coming videos. So, kung wala na, yun lang. Maraming salamat. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next vlog. Bye!